Today we're going to talk about credit cards. Last class we talked about checking accounts, and we'll go over that when I return next class. So today we're going to talk about the benefits and the cost of using credit cards, and we're going to also talk about credit history and how it applies to your personal credit score. So the first thing I want you to realize is that a credit card looks very similar to a debit card, but they are different. And a credit card is a form of borrowing. So when you have a credit card, you do not pay for whatever you're buying right then. And that's what this says. You don't pay for it until they send you a bill once a month. A debit card is going to come out of your account immediately. So there's the difference. Comes out of your checking account immediately. Whereas with a credit card, it comes out at, or you pay for it at the end of the month. Okay? Credit cards are going to be a really convenient way of buying things that you do not have enough cash or money in your checking account for. So if it's something big, you're going to need that you need to pay for it over several months, that's when you want to use your credit card. So a TV, a washing machine, a refrigerator, those kinds of things are things you want to use your credit card. But there is what we call interest rates, and usually credit cards have very high interest rates. And an interest rate is going to be, well, interest is going to be money that you pay to borrow money. So if you buy a TV that's like $800, whenever you finally pay off that TV, you'll probably pay more than $800 because of interest. It's money that they charge you for the privilege of borrowing it. You need to consider the interest you pay as a part of the cost of what you're buying. But if you pay it off each month, then you have no interest to pay. So we're going to look at an example of this today. Suppose you want to buy new shoes. So suppose you want to buy new shoes, but you do not have enough money saved. Your older brother agrees to buy the shoes and put them on his credit card. You plan to use part of your allowance each month to repay him. So if the shoes are 35, oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. The shoes are 35 and you pay your brother $8 when the credit card statement arrives. How much do you still owe him? So we need to do 35 minus 8 and we get you still owe $27. How many months will it take you to repay your brother if you pay $9 a month after the first month? So 27 divided by 9 is going to cost you 3 months. Now, if we want to find this, we're going to talk about simple interest, and there are other kinds of interest, but we're only going to talk about simple in this class. Next year, we'll talk about another type. Simple interest, this formula is wrong, is I equals P times R times T, where P is the money that you borrow. This is called the principal. The R is your rate, and it's a percent that we're going to change to a decimal. And T is your time, and it is always in years. So if we need to calculate simple interest of 18% for the number of months it will take you to pay your brother. So P is going to be the amount you borrowed, $27, because you do not pay interest on the 8 that you already paid. R is 18%, and we know that if you're going to change that to a decimal, you go 1, 2 to the left. T was 3 months now. Normally it's in years, but because they told us number of months, you're good to go. All right, so we have 3 months. So we're going to plug in what we know. I equals 27 times 0.18. Now this, again, since it says for the number of months, so we'll just times 3. So we need to come over here and do our math. Let's say 27 times 3, because those are the easy numbers. 6, it's 81. And then we need to do 81 times 0.18. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Don't forget your placeholder. 1 and 8. 8, 5, 14. Don't forget to move your decimal. 1, 2. So your interest is $14.55. So the total cost of our shoes is $14.55 plus 27. So we can say 14.55 plus 27. 11 carried on. So your shoes are going to cost you a total of $41.55, which is way more than they started with because of interest, because your brother is charging you money for the privilege of borrowing it. So anyone who wants to use credit needs to have a good credit history. Almost everything you do involving money goes on record somewhere. That record is a credit report, and it is used to assign you a credit score, kind of like a grade. So a credit score is usually between 300 and 850. 700 or higher is considered good, so it's like a B or an A. 580 and lower are poor, so it's like a C or a D. And if you're between 700 and 580, that means kind of like in between, like a C, like you're working towards good credit. If you have a high credit score, this is why it's important. You can borrow money at the lowest interest rates. Lenders consider you a good credit risk who will repay on time. So they feel like you're trustworthy, that you're financially responsible. If you have a low credit score, they're going to charge you higher interest rates for loans, or they may not give you a loan at all because you might have a history of late payments. People with very low credit scores may not be able to get a credit card. There are 3 nationwide agencies that report on consumer credit. Everyone is entitled to a free credit report once a year. So be careful with the places like Credit Karma and stuff like that, because if you check your credit report too often, it's going to take points off of your credit score. So you need to be real careful. Information on the credit report includes the following: public records like fines, remaining unpaid or late payments on utility bills, taxes, and city fees, late payments on loans like car loans and home mortgages, past due or unpaid credit card statements, which might include payments to local stores or for items ordered online, and accounts in good standing, which include credit amounts for which all payments are up to date. Key information on your credit report is usually kept for up to 7 years. And if you file for bankruptcy, which means that you, for whatever reason, couldn't pay your bills at all, that stays on longer. Here's some ways to build good credit. Always pay. Oh, I'm so sorry why it did that. Always pay on time. Even your monthly utility bill affects your credit score. So kind of like sometimes we have late work, we don't want to have late bills. Do not borrow or charge more than you can afford. Paying high interest rate on credit card balances can quickly increase the amount owed. So if it's something that you're not going to be able to pay off, then you probably don't need it. Open a bank account before trying to get a credit card. Have different types of credit like cell phone contracts, credit cards, and a bank account. All of those are going to help you build good credit. So let's look at a couple of questions here. What information in your credit report would be especially important to a lender? If you pay your bills on time, and if you owe a lot, right? Those are things that they're going to be looking at. We're not going to do number 3. Why is your credit score important to you as a borrower? This is going to get you low interest rates. And if your interest rate is lower, then you don't have to pay as much money for borrowing the money. Okay? How long is information kept on a credit report? 7 years. How does your credit score affect the interest on loans? So if you have a high score, you have low interest rate. If you have a low score, you have a high interest rate. What can you do to build good credit history? Pay on time is the big one. And don't overcharge, right? You don't want to spend too much. So I would like you to know number 8, 9, and 10. And then we'll talk about this when I return back to class next time. Thank you.